Greetings. Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
All right. Well, it's been a week. It's been a week, and there's a few things I wanted to talk about. One of the things, guys, and thanks for joining us for this. Well, one of the things I really wanted to talk about with this, and I'm excited and I wanted to jump right into it. I am one of those who got the Warhammer Plus, thing, the Warhammer Plus TV thing, whatever it's called.
I'm
the
on the
little
fence. Been
icon
thinking
that's
about
on
it
my
since you
iPad.
mentioned it.
Yeah. So I'm one of those who got that. I still, by the way, have not gotten my exclusive assassin model, which looked great in the picture, but I have not yet seen it. But I've been watching the shows, and I don't know. When they've come out, it's been okay, you know. Some, well, they've only had two really. That was better than the other one, but there were a few episodes that were really good and, things like that. But I was actually taken aback at the effort that they put into this last one. This last one, which is called The Exile. It's about, of course, exile, Eldar. And the thing that took me aback was as soon as it came on, they do this narration, voice comes up and starts to narrate things at the beginning. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Mr. Krabs. That's his voice, the Kurgan from Highlander. They actually got him to do the
Clancy
voice acting.
Brown?
Yeah. They got him from, wasn't he in Carnival or whatever as well?
Yeah,
a couple of
Carnival.
He's been in all kinds of stuff,
He was
Shawshank
just
Redemption
in
and all that.
Mandalorian as the
Yeah.
Red Devil guy.
Yeah.
Wasn't he
Yeah,
also
exactly.
the big satyr dude in Thor Ragnarok? Was that him?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently voice acting became his thing. After Shawshank, he said he discovered voice acting and opened up a whole new world for him. But they actually got
shorts.
What's that?
Go to work in your shorts.
Yeah, but
Sweatpants.
it's easier to do, good money and all that, and it keeps you working. And as an actor, that's what you want to do. And so I was impressed. I was like, wait a minute, that's Clancy Brown that they got for that. They also have Andy Serkis doing some stuff for what is it? One of their games as well. But I heard in the last board meeting they had, or stock or investor update, that they're putting much more energy and much more resources into the entertainment side of things. They're actually working with some studio out in LA and that kind of thing. So I had heard that, but this was the first time I'd seen some of the fruits of that effort,
evidence of that.
Yeah, and it was
Okay,
actually
so let me
very
ask you a
impressed.
little bit about Warhammer Plus, right? Because I have
Sure.
most of the streaming services that I watch on my TV. So
Yeah.
I have a Roku, and so I can watch just about everything I want. The Warhammer Plus, can you only watch that as like an app? Do you have to have it on your phone or on your tablet, or do you know if that's available on like a TV streaming device?
I was gonna watch that. I had heard that it was going to be available on like Apple and that sort of thing at some point.
Okay.
But the only way I can watch it on my TV currently is by going online, through the internet and watching it like on the Xbox or something. As far as the app, that's generally what I do. I'll watch whatever comes out on, the iPad. The biggest problem I have is that it seems like they launched it way before they had enough content to put out. They were going to put stuff out every Wednesday, and it's been weeks in between where things don't come out, or that kind of thing. And then they'll have the lore master thing or how to paint blades or any of that, but I don't care about that. I already
I heard they had some painting tutorials. I think because I read an article about it where they were like they're putting back issues of White Dwarf as like an archive for like the really really old stuff that it's not really content that is relevant to your gaming today, but it's nostalgia. But again, you wouldn't expect like Disney Plus to put out old copies of like some Disney magazine.
Yeah.
In you know what I'm saying? That's why it's a little weird. Like, is it
is.
only an app based thing right now
And that was,
versus a straight up video?
that's the thing. It kind of reminds me of what DC did with theirs. I don't know if either of you guys got the DC thing when that was
I
out.
knew some people that had it for a minute, and I
Yeah.
might have had like a free trial and watched a couple, but I didn't stick with it.
And that's what I had actually for Doom Patrol. Helene and I would watch
Yeah.
Doom Patrol
Mm-hmm.
and Swamp Thing, right? And then they canceled Swamp Thing, and then they got rid of, or Doom Patrol was done, and that wasn't coming out for another year or something or whatever. And the only thing they had was Teen Titans, and the first season of that was okay, but then it got dumb. And the only other thing they had on there was essentially the comic books, and I was, you know.
Yeah.
It's not enough. So I ended up bailing on that too. And then apparently the service went under and moved everything over to HBO or something. So
Right.
it seems kind of a little bit like that. Now, I will
Okay.
say the thing that everybody's waiting for is because you saw Astartes, right?
Mhm.
You remember that, right? The miniseries thing that dude did of Astartes. Did you ever see that, Drew?
I don't think so.
It was amazing. It was really, really good.
I mean, I've seen a bunch of videos, but not in an organized way. I don't know if it's part of anything or.
This one you would have remembered. This one looked, extremely professional. One guy did it. He did everything. The music, the editing, the animation, everything on there. And it was really, really well done. And so Games Workshop, before they came out, or I guess at the same time, they came out with their lawyerly statement of nobody makes anything. They went out and said to all the people who had already put stuff out, they said, hey, why don't you guys come work for us and we'll have you guys put your shows out on our streaming service. And so that's essentially what they've been doing. Is a guy who was doing this series called Hammer and Bolter, another guy who was doing a series, I can't remember the name of it, it's about blood angels, and then Astartes was another one. And Hammer and Bolter, they've had a few of those come out, a number of those come out, but that's more like kind of heavy metal kind of animation kind of thing.
Right, and all of these are animated, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then, so Hammer and Bolter is kind of that, and it's kind of like a little one-off, kind of heavy metal kind of thing, a little snippet of a story for, for different aspects of that universe. And they've had a few that were actually pretty good. Some of them kind of filler, but, easier to make. The other ones, and the Exodite, those ones are more laborious, time intensive, kind of things to do, and Astartes as well. But that's the one everyone's waiting for, is Astartes 2. That's what everybody wants to see, and it hasn't come out yet. So I was feeling kind of bummed about it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to renew this. Now I don't know, because now they had Clancy Brown in that one. I'm like, well, I guess they are putting some effort into this. They're putting some money into it. And from what I heard, they're actually looking at doing a live action for some of their stories, like maybe Eisenhorn, that kind of thing. And that's what they're working with that agency in LA for. So, and of course, Henry Cavill is big onto that and wants to play one of the Primarchs.
Well, like I say, if I could put on my time traveler hat and look forward in 10 years, right? And so Marvel was all like comic books and it was somewhat silly in comics or whatever. But then Hollywood is like, in comics, it costs the same amount of money to show two people talking as it does to have a big space battle, as it does to have, it's a big action fighty scene, because it's a guy drawing on a page. Right. And so the cost per page is the same no matter what the content is. But in video production, right, two people talking is way easier, way cheaper than, showing this Avengers final battle or whatever. But as special effects and computer generation has matured, now we can literally film anything we can imagine, which is what it used to be with comic books. Comic books, it's like we can draw anything, like we can have these huge battles and we can have, mutants and all this cool stuff. Nowadays, we can do the same thing. It's still expensive and time consuming, et cetera, But we live in an age now where whatever we can imagine could be turned into a film or a TV show or whatever,
Yeah.
as long as you're willing to put the budget in. And so Games Workshop is in the position that I think Marvel and DC were back in the day, where they were sitting on this mountain of IP, i.e. their comic books and their superheroes. And then Hollywood's like, we need content. We want to put some stuff out. Right. And so I think Games Workshop is like, hey, we have content. We have a rabid fan base who loves this and does not get enough of content outside of like Black Library has been doing gangbusters business for a long time, but that's basically reading and a little bit of comics. They haven't really done a whole lot with comics. So like looking forward 10 years, I could absolutely see Games Workshop, building a film / television division where they get to play in that Warhammer 40K/30K sandbox, because there's plenty of room for stories.
Well, that the comic books are being done by Marvel, right? I
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing,
but it's not like they have 50, titles. There's
they come out very intermittently,
right,
and
right.
But don't you think the hardest thing for Games Workshop to me has always been Games Workshop? If you think about it, they've been very fortunate that up to this point, everything that's happened has kind of been creating a better environment for them to come out, but they are way late to the party.
They've always been like that, though.
Always.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
World
Right.
of Warcraft.
The card game situation was the same way when
Well, but
Magic was
I specifically
doing
remember
great.
I specifically remember the World of Warcraft thing, and them, nah, we're not doing that, and all that stuff. And then they figure, well, all right, screw you, we'll go out and use orcs and all that stuff anyway, and do it on our own.
But now they make a significant portion of their revenue from licensing to video game companies and board game companies. I have the Talisman Warhammer 40K board game, and there's a bunch of they've discovered licensing and kind of letting other people play in their sandbox.
They've discovered a bit of it, but I wonder, I don't know. I wish I had, like you were saying, I wish I could go forward 10 years and see what happened with it. I look at things like, you guys have seen that show Arcane, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't finished it, but I've seen most of it.
Okay. So Arcane, very popular, extremely popular. Everybody loves that. Everybody loves that series and all that. Based on a game, man. Based on a game. On Netflix, got great exposure so that everybody's going to be able to see it, becomes super popular, gets on the most popular bid on there and all that. Just helps grow it. Games Workshop seems to be very insular as far as that sort of thing goes. And I wonder sometimes if that feeling of wanting to be insular, being so xenophobic with that sort of thing, hasn't hurt them in a way. And I wonder, maybe it hasn't. Maybe, going forward, they'll be fine with that. But I look at what other companies have done with that sort of thing, and they've done really, really well, So
I also think Games Workshop has changed some of their leadership at the top.
Yeah, they have.
To be much more...
Everybody.
Everybody. Like, we know lots of ex-GW employees, including the three of us. But I mean, all those people in the upper levels don't really work there anymore. And I think they have some real business people in charge. Now, I can't speak to a lot of what their decision is, but as a gamer who likes Warhammer, the tabletop game, I've seen them over the last few years do things that are amazing. They're bringing back some of these old things from Rogue Trader, right? And giving some of the armies love that they need. And like I said, I'm a fan of how they've handled like bringing out the new editions and bringing out the new models and the things that they're doing. Yeah, they're a little bit expensive. They charge a premium, but they've never shied away from that, and they've never apologized for it, because they're bringing their A game, and on the quality side, yep, you're going to pay for it. Go on the internet if you want to save a couple of bucks, or there's plenty of other companies that you can go to. But like I say, I think it's a little less of sort of they have been a bit abrasive, my way or the highway, in the past.
In the past 6 months.
In the past 6 months, yeah, true.
They pissed a lot of people off with that. Hey, don't make any fan art or fan cinema,
right? But
or any of that.
That I look at as a different thing. That is now that they're a big boy company, right? And they're worth a ton of money, and they're sitting on all of this very valuable intellectual property. Once you get the lawyers involved, lawyers are stupid, right? They're going to be like, we're going to do X, like, because third edition of Dungeons and Dragons, they basically, some people talked them into doing an open source gaming license, which was akin to the open source Linux software license. And so the open game license allowed all these third party publishers to come in and like make content and play in that sandbox under a very specific set of rules. And for, you know, whatever, regardless of your opinion, that was very successful. There were companies that exist now today because of that.
Mhm.
Okay, so then when fourth edition came out, the lawyers got involved. Like, we got to fix this, and they screwed it up so bad that they, you know, that's where Paizo came from. They used to publish Dungeon and Dragon magazine, right? They had the license for that, and then there was going to be this big switch, and they were like, "Oh, what should we do? Should we stick with fourth edition, or should we run off and do our own thing with Pathfinder?" And in my mind, I was like, "How would you not do D&D and stick with fourth edition?" And then when they came out with like the license terms under fourth edition, everybody was like, "Yeah, we're not doing that." So like, if I published a piece of content under fourth edition, you know, if I, you know, Castle Ravenloft or whatever, like, you know, I wrote this module or this adventure setting or whatever, and published it under fourth edition, under their terms, you were not allowed to rework it and publish it under third edition or publish it under Savage Worlds or any other rule system. It was trapped forever within the fourth edition rule set. You know what I mean? And so you were literally putting all of your creative effort at the will, you know, at the mercy of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by lawyers are stupid. Like, they saw that this kind of this feeding frenzy, this free for all that third edition D&D brought to the third party publishers. And so they tried to clamp down and still let people play in the sandbox, but they tried to exert a ridiculous amount of control. It was way too much control.
I wonder
so
how
when you get lawyers involved, they're gonna be like, you can't do anything. And that's where, because lawyers don't know or care about, you know, the 40K community that loves these animations and respects what the people are doing. They just see some dollar signs, and I want to protect my client and give them maximum control over it.
I wonder
so they're doing their job. They're just dumb.
I wonder how Star Wars avoided all that, because they don't have an issue with people doing fan related stuff. It's almost like they
same thing with
it.
Star Trek. Star Trek doesn't mind that either.
Yeah, I don't.
And again, that's why I blame stupid lawyers. But Games Workshop has always been.
They've always been a bit dogmatic when it came to, you know, to IP and copyrights. Yeah. I mean, didn't they had a huge thing about Space Marine.
Yeah, remember? It was the Chapter House Studio lawsuit where people were making Space Marine shoulder pads or, you know, things like that.
They basically said you couldn't use the word Space Marine, and basically like, wait a minute, science fiction's been using Space Marine forever.
Right? Imperial Guard. Never heard that before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just weird. So it's kind of funny. This is what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like, you know, back in like the 70s and all, and they like create this stuff. And they create it because they were inspired off of science fiction of the day or of the past. And then as time goes on and it becomes successful and they make a lot of money, they forget the origins of where the inspiration came to make these games.
Yeah,
well, I remember reading Dune and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is 40K." You know what I mean? Like you read Dune,
weird.
And you're like,
well,
"Okay,
not just
what
Dune.
Your favorite book was
not just Dune.
I know, not just Dune, but there's so
forget,
much.
Like Starship Troopers,
right.
You know, stuff like. I mean, it's a litany, you know. And by the way, there's a dude I've seen who does. He does a bunch of videos about how everything has stolen from Dune. Anything that comes out, it's stolen from Dune. I was like, well, where do you think he got his ideas?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, he just stole.
It all goes back to the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Homer and the
Odyssey.
Space
Marines in the Bible.
Yeah, well, there were. Who do you think came to Sodom and Gomorrah?
That's right. Goliath, they were Primaris Marines.
That's right.
Oh dear.
Oh, did
but
you
he
guys
wasn't wearing his helmet, and so little David was able to hit him with that rock right in his forehead.
Did you guys see that the Star Wars cinematic trailer that came out for the Old Republic?
Yes.
No.
What'd you think?
I think it was great.
I love that stuff, man. That is so good.
It was great. As a matter of fact, it really makes you wish that the studios paid more attention to that sort of stuff because they don't. I mean, as good as a lot of this stuff is, when they get going in the right direction, they still don't capture that the sort of drama that you get from those videos.
Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing, and it looks so good. It looks so much better than some of the stuff you see in the live action,
Right.
Well, a lot of the stuff you see in the live action. Mark, you haven't seen it?
I've not.
You can't pull it up, can you?
I have YouTube on this other screen. I can pull it up.
Because I love...
What's it called again?
What is it called? Not Deceived. Oh, what is it? Disorder? Was it Disorder?
It's kind of hard. I'd have to look at my history.
Don't go out of the app, otherwise you'll never get back.
Is it Knights of the Old Republic trailer?
No.
Yes. No, that's it.
What is it called? There should be a thing.
Hold on, give me a second. Star Wars: The Old Republic, all cinematic trailers, 6 years ago.
No,
12 days ago. Star Wars: The Old Republic, Disorder cinematic trailer.
That's the one.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, yeah. So you want me to try and play?
Yeah, see if you can do that
on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got one of my favorite Sith of all time. One of your favorite too, Mark.
One of my favorite Sith.
Yeah. I love seeing a bald man doing some amazing stuff, and so it's one of my favorite Sith.
I want to share a screen, which I believe is going to be a window. Brave tab, there it is.
I don't understand why, like you said, Drew, I don't understand why they wouldn't explore that more. The response you get from something like that, from everyone who's seen it, even non-Star Wars fans, has been just, wow, that's incredible.
Okay, so I have it queued up on YouTube. Drew, I think we can hear what you're doing in the background.
Yeah. I'm trying to All
right. So I'm going to press play. What I don't
know is... Can you
enlarge
it?
This... no.
Why isn't...
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Aw.
I
boo-boo.
I know.
Sahar.
The worst thing is that's where their brain is in the lake.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she lost part of her brain.
Did you see?
She is damaged.
I know it is difficult to accept, but the Force has chosen you. Destroy this machine and all records of it.
Yes, Master Or.
Don't do it.
This reminds me so much of, Drew, or was it Mark? One of you corrupting it was Mark.
Marcus. Traitor. Go, now!
You remember him, Mark?
Yeah. Shouldn't have taken them over.
Sahar? Is that you?
You're too late, Marcus. Focus.
Don't get
Are you
cocky,
taking
kid.
both children?
No. The brother shows little connection with the Force.
Jerk.
Zahar, the Force has chosen you.
No!
I sense your past, Padawan.
Can't take her!
Your pain, your fear. This is how the Sith and Jedi maintain control, revealing the ways of the Force to some, and keeping it from others.
Yeah,
That's right.
And he looks so trustworthy. I believe
they're
everything.
selfish
How
like that.
many were left behind, so that the Jedi could play God?
I want to know Malgus's skincare regimen.
Human blood.
And power tools.
Well done, young one. Now give it to me.
You could have saved my brother.
What?
Was I chosen by the Force?
Yes.
Or you?
Because your brother said.
Now's not the time.
Pay no attention to that. There's no time.
Do you know what it is your master just destroyed?
Zahar, listen to me.
A machine built to find those the Jedi didn't deem worthy.
See, that's
Silence!
beautiful. I love that
Give
word
it to
on the
me.
face.
Now, Padawan!
It's not too late. Give me the plans.
No!
We can still find your brother.
I've only ever protected you. You must trust me.
Very well.
I love Malgus. Kill him. Kill him.
I'm sorry.
No, you will be.
This is let your master get killed.
Yeah, definitely a marker.
And then now you're gonna fight him. Because he killed your master.
All your life you've been in a cage, Padawan. When you're ready, break free.
So there you go.
Yep, that was
So
definitely.
what is that? Is that going to be a new game, or
Yeah.
what did we just watch?
Yeah, that's going to be a game, Legacy
Okay.
of the Sith. The other ones that you saw, the other cinematic trailers, were from, of course, the Old Republic, which
Right.
was a game. This is the next chapter
Right,
in that, if you will.
iteration in the series. Yep.
Yeah.
Mark, that definitely had your character all over it. Like after you fail your master, and you totally give up what you're supposed to, and then you're like, no, I'm gonna try to like make it look good. Like I really did
Yeah,
want to do that.
I had trouble hearing that too. You're breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love Malgus. I thought the old ones were great, and the level of improvement between the old ones and now, just in texture and lighting and all of that, was just amazing. I also like, did you notice? And I love that they put this in there. They had the Padawan do the infamous from Game of Thrones, what's her face? Arya.
Yeah, where she dropped the knife.
Yeah, the infamous Arya move. It was also in Star Wars. Rey did that with the Imperial
Well, it was
Guard.
also in Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Winter
basically,
Soldier
we're
did.
saying they did something that was overused.
Correct. And what did Malgus do? Because of course he had seen all those movies.
That's right.
He blocked.
He knew.
He blocked it.
He
He's
was
like, well,
prepared.
that's dumb.
I mean,
like, I'm
clearly,
not going to see you dropping your knife.
clearly,
right there,
you should follow that guy because he knows what's going on.
That's right. Yeah, I can see you dropping your lightsaber. It's made of light. I can see it falling. I know what you're doing.
We didn't see the eye roll. When she does that, he's like,
all right.
These kids think they're so smart.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was born yesterday.
No catharsis here, madam. No. Into the cage with you.
This is so funny.
And that was, I love that. And I have no idea why they haven't explored that and said, you know what? You guys need to make a movie. You need to do that. Make a movie, make a series of them, whatever you got to do.
Star Wars has been like, we're going to start a whole thing. But like I said, that whole last trilogy, Star Wars / Disney wanted to go off in left field and do a thing. And so the first one was a very basic Star Wars movie. It was essentially a retelling of episode 4.
Yeah.
But it set us up. Like when I came out of that movie going, oh, cool. Let's see what, like it wasn't breaking new ground, but I was like, oh, who's this Snoke character? What's his deal? Who are the Knights of Ren? They sound pretty cool. Who are Rey's parents?
Yeah, until I thought about it.
We came out of that. No, but we came out of that with like, all right, that was a good time. I was ready for it. And then, I guess Rian Johnson really decided that, he hated, what is it, J.J. Abrams. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna tear down everything he just did. It felt like two parents getting a divorce, and us children in the middle were being used, as bait against each other.
Well, I can tell you what parent I was going with.
J.J. Abrams movie. He tore everything down, and all the questions we had were just, eviscerated. And we're like, oh, okay. And so then they bring him in to fix the third one.
Yeah.
And, and they, I'm like, we're waiting for Luke Skywalker to come back. And we got him playing Keep Away.
Have you guys had
for 10 minutes? And it was like, but again, all of this wasn't like, I'm blaming the directors, of course, but it's not the directors, right? Yeah. Somebody approved those scripts. Somebody higher up the chain was like, yeah, this is the direction we want to go with Star Wars. Yeah. And the fans clearly are like, yeah, this isn't the Star Wars we love, and it's not what we want. And I think that's obvious, right? Not to jump onto, there's plenty of videos out there, people hating on Star Wars and the later trilogy, and rightfully so, in my opinion.
Right.
But it's a corporate structure thing. Like Disney's at fault for this. Was it Kathleen Kennedy? Like a lot of people are looking at her going, hey, you know what? Like you've spent a little bit too much time, in your ivory tower over there at what is it, Skywalker Studios or.
But don't you give
Lucas.
her credit though as well? I give her. Let me phrase it this way: I give them and I give her credit in one respect, in that they are willing to act, or were. I don't know if they are now. They were willing to take chances with a lot of that stuff too. Rogue One was made on her watch, and the whole bit that made Rogue One great, the thing with Darth Vader, they ran that by her 2 weeks before they released the movie and said, hey, we want to do this. Is that all right? And she said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Run with it, And so I give her credit for that stuff, for the good stuff too.
Yeah.
My fear is that they're going to withdraw more and become more formulaic with it. I hope not, but that's my fear.
And so here's the thing: like every Star Wars movie that's ever come out has cool stuff in it, stuff that adds to the Star Wars, legend, legacy, cool things. Even if the movie's bad, it has good things in it. Like that lightsaber duel we just saw on this trailer, we wouldn't see that without the prequels. Like when the prequels came out, that's one of the things the prequels got right. They brought in, Ray Park as Darth Maul, and they went, whole hog on the lightsaber duels, and that's what we wanted. Because if you watch Star Wars now, it's a couple of 70-year-old dudes like poking each other with sticks.
Yes.
Compared to what we saw in the prequels, and so that's a thing that I absolutely give all of the credit in the world to the prequels for elevating the lightsaber game far above what the original trilogy did. Doesn't make them superior movies, but there are pieces of them. So Rogue One, I have no complaints about that at all. And there were really cool things in the last 3 movies, but not enough to outweigh the negative. You know what I mean?
But the idea of the Clone Wars was always supposed to be like, it was a time with lots of lightsabers and guys fighting. And I mean, they tried to they sold that to us when we were kids.
Yeah.
You know, with that idea, they kind of delivered halfway with the making of chapters 1 through 3. But yeah, I mean, I think all in all, these games, they really do a great job focusing on the action. I guess because, you know, there's probably a lot of other things when you're trying to tell a story. You know, there's a lot of other distractions and things. They're only having to tell a piece of a scene. You know, they're just trying to one scene. You know,
but
and they can throw everything into it that they want. You know, which.
But they've kept a good narrative up over those scenes. They've got a good narrative up of those
and previous
scenes.
games have too. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, remember the one with all the Sith coming out of the ship they crashed?
That's what I mean.
That was amazing.
That's what I mean.
That was fun. That's what
or the guy pulling the Star Destroyer out of orbit.
Yes, Star Killer.
Now, what if we'd seen that in that last Star Wars movie? You know, what if he'd picked up those walkers and like bowled with them or something? You know,
Dude,
like you could have done so many cool things, right?
I was waiting since I was 7 years old watching Star Wars in the movie theater to see Luke doing the stuff that I had dreamt of him doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And remember the old Clone Wars? I'm not talking about, the movie or any of that. I'm talking about the 5-minute snippets that were on Cartoon Network.
Right.
Remember that?
By the Russian dude.
Yeah, the one who did Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode in there they had where Grievous got his cough? He shows up to Coruscant. He shows up to Coruscant to get Emperor Palpatine at the time, and kidnap him. And so he shows up there. He gets into a fight with Mace Windu, and Yoda goes running around the streets on his little Tauntaun-esque sort of thing. And Yoda goes out there and he is pulling starships out of the sky and crashing them into each other and doing all kinds of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to see that sort of thing in the movies, right? Because this was before Clone Wars came out. Right. And Mace Windu, of course, almost gets in a fight with Grievous. Grievous turns around to face him down. And Mace Windu reaches out with his hand, just crunches a little bit, and, his chest caves in. Grievous's chest caves in, and he starts coughing. That's where his cough came from. So when I saw that in the movie, I was like, that's awesome. So all that stuff in the Clone Wars little snippet was canon, So Yoda was out there, like, clapping ships together and pulling them down and all that. And then they never did that. They never did it. They had Yoda. The closest they got was him and the Emperor throwing the little, balcony things at each other.
Floaty.
Right. Yeah, spinning it around like a frisbee and throwing it at the other guy and all that.
And of course the Emperor goes.
Yeah. And as cool as all that was, they've never done that massive, here's what the Force can do. Here it is.
I know, and what
an
opportunity. Like, think about those last 3, the last trilogy. You had Han Solo, you had Luke Skywalker, and you had Princess Leia. And I don't believe all 3 of them were ever on screen together.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like, talk about a missed opportunity. Like, you have these iconic characters, and if you want to bring them in and pass the torch over to the new generation, like, I get that because they're old. We're not going to have them around forever. Literally in a couple of cases, right? Or
I always said that's the biggest sin of those movies.
Right.
The worst.
But then we have the technology that we could have taken, Luke and had him pull, starships out of the sky and crash them. And he could have done these amazing things as a Jedi Master who's been literally studying the Force off on Force Island for 30 years. Right? What a perfect opportunity to show what a Jedi Master with a full mastery of the Force could do. And instead, that's what we got.
Well,
you know what I mean? And
that's the thing that's really funny is seeing like the Sith like fly the ship through into the temple in that one video, and they come out and they fight. And all. We actually did that before that video in the game.
Right.
But we had the droid fly the ship through the front door, all those bad guys, and then we came in and collapsed the tower. That was came in on the tower and they were getting assaulted from two fronts.
Yeah.
That's what
Drew is referring to one of our Star Wars role-playing game campaigns. Because I believe we played 2 separate campaigns where we were Jedi.
Right.
And then we played a campaign where we were Sith.
Yeah.
So we have explored the Star Wars universe in role-playing game format from all sides.
Which was a lot of fun.
Let's put it this way.
It was.
Our Jedi were not getting captured by pirates like the Clone Wars when they capture Anakin, Count Dooku, and Obi-Wan. Somehow, magically, they capture all 3 of those guys like, you can't get out of here. Which is like, what? What the? That was not happening to us. No way.
No.
Yeah, not even a little.
And you call me a min-maxer. That was a lot. That was, and I was the GM of that game. As a GM, it was a pleasure to watch that sort of stuff. That was a lot of fun. I wish they would explore that sort of stuff in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, so do I. That'd be fun. I mean, I guess maybe they're thinking like in their brains, they're thinking like, oh, well, the video games cover that stuff.
I don't know.
Bizarre.
Did you see the what was it? The Star Wars anime one. Oh, what was it called? I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
Visions. Star Wars Visions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did you guys see that?
I haven't seen those yet.
I didn't really. It didn't.
The first one I thought was actually pretty cool. They had a couple in there that I was actually all right. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But even the bad ones, and I shouldn't say that. That's unfair. The ones that weren't my cup of tea. Let me put it that way. I still give them credit for exploring it in that different way, for doing these different things, and I would love to see some more of that. To see some more of that stuff, or like you were talking about, Mark, the Force Unleashed stuff, where size really doesn't matter, or you got a dude who's sitting there doing the whole turning everybody to ash stuff and all that. Really seeing Darth Vader's description of the Force making the Death Star insignificant. Yeah,
and here's another thing with Marvel coming out with the What If series.
Yeah.
And this whole exploration of the multiverse, which brings us over to the new Doctor Strange trailer and some things like that. Like the science fiction watching public is now much more familiar with the concept of different universes or different iterations of a given thing that is not necessarily canon. It's just in an alternate dimension. What if this happened, or what if that happened? Like, you could literally be like, let's have a Star Wars What If, and let people play in that sandbox and tell some cool stories like, what if that trilogy was made by people who competently handled it? Right. Yeah, like good movies. But you know what I mean? Like,
and they've actually introduced,
we can retcon some things.
They've actually got a mechanic for that. Did you guys saw the Clone Wars series, right?
Right.
Or was it no Rebels? Excuse me, it was in Rebels.
Rebels, yeah.
I've seen some of Rebels. Yeah.
Okay,
I've seen all Rebels.
There's an episode in Rebels. Spoiler alert. There's an episode in Rebels where they have do you remember the story, the portals, where they go in and they got all the different portals, and Ezra goes in and saves Ahsoka and pulls her through the portal. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
He sees her fighting. Vader, and pulls her through, and then he has a chance to save what's his face, and she says, "Well, I don't know if you want to do that," and he has to let him go. And so they've actually got a mechanism through the Force for doing that retcon stuff or going to different universes, and they've actually kind of broached it in a joking way, I guess, with in Loki. When Loki was sent to that one planet, there was something on there that kind of looked like a Star Wars ship that was out there waiting to be eaten. So they've already got something like that as a mechanism if they want to explore that. I kind of wish they would. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And as I'm sure you know, in that episode of Loki, when they go to the planet where everything gets eaten, of course, at the end of time, one of the ships in there actually looked like one of the Star Wars ships. It was an homage, I'm sure, but there it was. So it could very easily become, just nom de rigueur. So they have a way of doing that to retcon things anyway. And I always thought that'd be kind of cool anyhow. But who wouldn't like to see also them do a crossover too?
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just so like tired of the multi-world thing. Plus, the other thing is you guys aren't into comics, so it's like
No, I know the
getting
multiverse.
bang here because comics are all about that right now.
I
Oh,
know,
right.
I know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
So
And it
at
has
this
been.
point, it's
It has
like
been
this
for a long
on the
time.
level of too much already for me.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand like comics is where it came from, and
Well,
now
they're
I
really
love
into it now.
I love that whole Ultimates thing. Like I was digging a lot of the Ultimates titles and whatnot, and I thought that was a
If
great
you were to pick
idea.
up, there's a thing called Avengers Forever right now, and it's Avengers from other multiverses, and they're
Mm.
bad guys that have joined from other multiverses attacking the Earth 616, and it is like a huge deal right now. And over in Spider-Man, for they have running a series in Daredevil called Devil's Reign, and there is a Doctor Octopus spin-off mini-series for this event where essentially Fisk is running as he's the mayor of New York right now, the Kingpin, and he is essentially like putting the kibosh on all the heroes. So of course he's hired bad guys to help him do that. What a surprise! It's kind of a repeat of what they've done just about like 10 years ago. But anyhow, one of the bad guys is Dr. Octopus, who, since they've arrested the half of the Fantastic Four, he's gone into the Baxter Building and he's messing with Reed Richards' stuff, and he's going into multiverses, pulling out all
Sounds
these
so funny.
Octo Octavius versions that have powers. And there's, of course, it's very. What are the chances that it would be? Remember the crossover that they did where the new Fantastic Four was the Grey Hulk and Ghost Rider?
Yeah, and Wolverine.
Wolverine. Well, they did the exact same thing here. They've essentially there's an Otto Octavius Wolverine, Hulk, and Ghost Rider, along with the regular Otto Octavius, and they're goofing around. And it's like, oh my god, I'm so tired of multiverse crap right now. And we just got over a big DC thing called Metal that was all about multiverses and all this horse manure. And now I don't even read DC because it's such a train wreck. But they're getting ready to do another Crisis. What are the chances? They're like a one-trick pony. Like, oh, it's a Crisis.
This is why. This is why I'm glad I haven't been into the comics for years now. Is because I'm able to actually look forward to and enjoy the stuff that's coming out. I'm looking forward to the Doctor Strange bit. By the way,
I am
What'd you think of the trailer?
Oh, of course, I loved it. I mean, it's like I think it looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. There's also the hint of the Illuminati being there, and them introducing the Professor X which is gonna be what's his name, Picard, that played Picard.
I am over, by the way, the actors pretending like they don't know or they have nothing to do with it, and all that. Oh, I don't know. They haven't contacted me. Come on, man. What am I, morons? Please, just stop it.
I'm looking forward to that, and getting what they call the Defenders Doctor Strange, because he's wearing a black suit that he wore when he was with the latest incarnation of, well, 2 incarnations of the Defenders ago. God, there's so much crap. But yeah, so there's that, and then of course evil Doctor Strange. Who doesn't like an evil Doctor Strange? That's always exciting, and I thought that was great, and of course seeing the critters, and I thought that was cool, and it's like what wasn't there to like, really? I mean, and plus of course it's my boy director from Army of Darkness, Raimi.
Yeah, Sam Raimi.
He's gonna have a ball with that, and I'm really looking forward to Bruce Campbell's appearance somewhere as a minor character, and also seeing the classic that always shows up, his crazy, I think it's an Impala or something that always shows up.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Uncle Ben's car. It shows up in everything he possibly can. I think it didn't show up. Of course, it obviously wasn't in Quick and the Dead. which would have been pretty amazing if they got.
Oh, I'm sure there was an impala in the background jumping over a bush somewhere or something, but yeah.
That would have been absolutely spectacular.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. That was one of the few times that where they've gone through like a director change, and it didn't bug me. It didn't give me pause. I wasn't like worried about it, because as soon as I heard it was Sam Raimi, I was like, oh, that's, I'm actually intrigued. I want to see what that ends up being. Yeah, I'm glad to see him getting into that.
Oh yeah, and I think it's almost like, I think that I really think there was a little hurt feelings there when they redid with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I really do think there was some
I
hurt
think so
feelings
too.
there. But now that they've done the Spider-Man multiverse thing, it's sort of like all that is, they're not writing him off, And honestly, I mean, as good as the past Spider-Man movies have been, the new ones, I think Sam Raimi got a lot of it right. I mean,
He did.
Right on the nose with Spider-Man.
Well, you see a lot of the people out there will tell you, and I give Andrew Garfield a lot of credit for this, and Tom Holland, that they say Toby is their Spider-Man. He's the one, I kind of dig that they give him the credit for that,
Yeah,
and because
cool.
he was
the
man,
first.
he was the best Peter Parker.
And who
He
was
really
No,
was.
see, for me, I actually like oh god, I just drew a blank on the names. Who was the guy that they just brought back for the other one? Oh,
You mean,
the guy they just brought back for the other one.
Defoe?
No, not when the Spider-Man. There's 3 Spider-Men.
Oh,
I just
not
mentioned.
Tom Holland.
I literally just gave you.
Yeah,
the
but
names.
I just drew a blank on the name. All right, we're doing this again. Andrew Garfield.
No, you ain't cutting that
is
out.
my
That's
favorite.
staying.
I know I'm not. Andrew Garfield is my favorite Peter Parker. Like, of all the ones that have acted, he's the one I like the best.
He wasn't.
To me, seems the most like Peter Parker.
No, he's too much of a jock.
No, you guys are just wrong.
2-1.
2-1, man. 2-1. It's true.
It's not.
Now,
vote.
don't get
He
me
can be
wrong.
my
Do
favorite.
not get me wrong.
And he is.
I like Andrew Garfield a great deal. I actually loved him in No Way Home. I thought he was amazing.
Mhm.
He actually brought, I thought, the best energy and the best, interaction to No Way Home. His whole thing about, the stuff coming out of the arms and all that and everything. I thought that was great. And then his performance, his Oscar-worthy performance of, oh, I got to save her, catharsis, and all that.
Yeah.
I thought that was great and all of that. But no, I don't look at him and see Peter Parker.
Right.
When I.
And the best tribute to Sam Raimi and saying that he got it right on the nose. Everyone was excited to see Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin because of those actors.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt, if they ever do this in the future to try to find the actors for both of those characters, it's so bizarre how well those two actors fit those characters somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Otto wasn't quite as conceited as he is in the comics, because he's a bit of a super douche, he's so conceited about himself, but still, I love that take.
Yeah.
And I mean,
see, that was the thing
great.
I loved about it, was that they had Fred Molina play him in a way that was not a jerk, that he was a good guy. You actually pulled for him,
Yeah, exactly. You felt
and
bad.
that was great. And I love to see the fact that he made something of himself after becoming a criminal in Indiana Jones. And everybody thought he was dead in the beginning when he got hit by the spikes. And I'm glad to see that he came back, got his doctorate, and went on to try to make renewable energy for everyone. And his skincare regimen is amazing because he looks awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is what counts.
It is. I love giving a guy a second chance. And so I'm glad he made something of himself.
But yeah, so of course, the multiverse, I give it a definite thumbs up. I mean, very excited for Doctor Strange to say. And I'm not Doctor Strange wasn't the greatest movie.
I love that one. I thought that was one where they took a lot of chances.
It was okay. I think I would have preferred. This is the one case where I'm gonna, do all the crazy woke crap that's out there. This is the one case where I would agree and say they should have gotten an older.
Oh well, yeah.
ancient
And
one.
and you know what?
No,
Not
the ancient
to,
one to be some
insulting.
old guy. Yeah,
but
yeah.
That
not
was
to take
super
away from
insulting.
her. I thought she did a good job in the
I like
role.
her. Don't get me wrong. I dig her as an actress and all,
Yeah,
but
but I
that
understand what you
it's
mean. Yes.
insulting, man. I
No,
mean, it
I
really
get
is.
it. I get it. And you're
Yeah.
right. You're right on that. But I thought for the story itself, and I thought the character, I know, and it's funny you say that. I've heard more people say Doctor Strange was too hard to get into and all that, but he ends up becoming one of their favorite characters. So that now, when they see this multiverse one coming out, they all say, "Wow, that looks amazing," because they've kind of gotten used to what he is from that first one and from
Yeah.
his stuff
Yeah,
in
I
the
No,
think
other
in,
movies.
and the Avengers movies as well. Like
Yeah,
it's not
that's
just
right.
yeah,
that
That's
Doctor
what I was
Strange
exactly.
going to
movie
say.
that we got to. And again, I think that actor is spot on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
I think
Benedict
so too.
Cumberbatch is a great Doctor Strange. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I
Like
think
I
Doctor
can't
Strange.
see anybody else in that role.
I think the only difference is Doctor Strange is a bit more of a horn dog than this than how he's playing.
Well, but again, that's something that they had to change,
Yeah,
and
I
to
mean, he
make
wasn't
him,
early on in the comics. I mean, don't get me wrong, Doctor Strange. His Zounds kind of. He was a
yeah.
Zounds guy. So he's being more true, I think, to the original character. That being said, I guess if you can do all kinds of different worlds and stuff, you're gonna probably over time be a bit of a like, ooh, hey, ladies,
Yeah, but
you know.
if you want him to be a character that people are easily able to access and you want that wider group, you can't do that.
You're
And
right.
then having him
Yeah.
into, him and Christine in this ends up being, especially with that What If episode, which I thought was amazing. I thought that
Yeah.
was great. And a lot of people will say that because it was so dark.
Well,
And
I would love to see Clea. I think I'm kind of I
did you
kind of
say
wish
Miss Cleo?
Clea.
Oh,
His
okay. I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking about the
interdimensional.
psychic lady.
No, his interdimensional like lady love. Um, I kind of miss that, and they've actually brought her back in the comics, and she has now taken over the mantle as the. Of course, she has, but she's taken over the mantle as the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange has kind of gotten lost in,
Hmm.
due to a storyline where he was murdered. And they had a fun thing where he set up a thing, basically. Doctor Strange set up a thing that if he got murdered, his past self would come back and try to solve the murder. And he was only there long enough to solve the murder and then move on. But it was kind of cool because he was sort of old school and kind of like, super strict and dorky.
Yeah.
And corny, which was a little bit of a fun kind of thing. And now, of course, Clea's taking over because the universe needs a Sorcerer Supreme, and and there's kind of like a Sorcerer Supreme on each sort of dimension now. There's, so she's taking
It's
over now
sad.
to find him because they like rekindled their relationship again because the spell was off where Clea remembered that they were past lovers and things like that because it was put on her a long time ago. But now that the Doctor Strange is dead, the more current one was dead, that spell was off, and it was like, oh my god, and so she's trying to find him. So they're probably going to find him and bring him back, and
See, that's the thing that so many. That's where the business side ruins storytelling, and that has always bothered the hell out of me. The thing that I loved about Infinity War was, of course, the wider audience that had never been in the comics didn't know what was going to happen. And so the shock of, everybody going to dust and all that was there. But I remember sitting in there in the theater with Helena, my wife, and her being so upset at that. It was one of the few times in movies, that and Lord of the Rings, I remember, where she actually got a little teary-eyed for Peter Parker when he goes, and
yeah,
and I'm sitting there in the theater and I'm thinking to myself, this is cool. I get to see this reaction. I get to see her doing this and experience this through her eyes. But I'm also upset inside because I know what's going to happen. And there's no real emotional cost to this because they're all coming back. The only ones who aren't coming back are the ones who didn't want their contracts renewed, right? And so they want out, And it
even
just
they're
kind of,
coming back,
what's that?
and even they're coming
They're
back.
coming back too. That's all the PR department. You
Well,
know,
that's true. They own their images, so they can make as many of them as they want, right? But that's where the business side comes in, and I've seen enough of it in the comics that I know when they're dead, they ain't dead. Yeah,
Oh
they're
yeah.
coming back again
yeah,
and again
yeah.
and again and all that. And
There's far too many licensed Wolverine products out there that
yeah.
I'm really concerned if Logan's going to make it back from this mission.
Right. So that's the thing about the multiverse thing is that to get to your point, Drew, is that I'm excited to see it, but there's a part of me that knows that it's never going to be let go. So there's no real cost. There's
Right.
never going to be cost.
Why I'm kind of like the whole entire thing. There are a couple of reasons I feel the way I do. In comics, I know this is just another excuse to do mantle changes and sex changes of whatever change of all your favorite characters. And it's from another universe and double. And it's like, oh my gosh, can we just concentrate on the characters we have and make good stories and good art? I mean, I just want to read some good stuff again. And so there's that. But there's another part of me that's like, well, this could be fun if they don't go so insane that it's not fun. There's a fine line there when you have multiple dudes,
Yeah,
like,
I just wish there was. I wish there was cost, and they're not the only. Oddly enough, not just the business side does this though. If you look at like Lord of the Rings, I love Lord of the Rings, but I love the Silmarillion more because in the Silmarillion there was a lot more death. There was a lot more cost. It was grim, and when you were fighting against, evil, there was a sense that, oof, this may not go well. And with Lord of the Rings, it started out that way. But as a fan of that, you look at the overall story, you can see Tolkien didn't want to kill off, people in there. He really didn't. The only one who really died who mattered was Boromir and the king.
And then, look, we have his brother.
What's that?
And then, look, Boromir's brother.
Yeah,
the new Boromir will be played by his younger brother.
Yeah, exactly. So you could see him.
Convenient.
You could see him not wanting to, put that in there. But how much better would it have been, and horrible at the same time, if there had been cost?
Right. And this is one of the things that The Walking Dead did in comics. Like, they would kill off all kinds of people, and by extension, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Right. Game of Thrones got to the point you didn't know who this series was about.
Yeah.
You thought it was going to be about Eddard Stark. Nope, his head got cut off. Okay, well, maybe Caitlin wants to get some. Nope, she's dead.
And
honestly, I would have said the same thing about The Mandalorian in the first season, because when they killed off Queel, and I was like, wait a minute, he'll be back. Gogru's gonna he wasn't Gogru at the time, but he's gonna.
He's not Gogru now.
Baby Yoda is gonna.
He's Grogu.
Gogru, whatever.
That's a stupid name. I'm not going to call him that.
He's going to bring him back. Next. Because Sarah was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh, they're going to bring him back next time. You watch the little baby Yoda's going to be like, and it's all going to be golden. And then it's like he's not back, and there's like he's buried. I'm like, oh shit. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's putting the rocks on him.
It's a good thing Sarah wasn't younger. It would have been like, you lied, Bobby.
You lied to me.
Like,
right, but I remember listening to one of the audiobooks for one of the Game of Thrones, and HODOR was in trouble, and some White Walkers were coming after him, and I'm driving in my car, like, literally in fear that HODOR was going to get, like, killed by these White Walkers. Like, that never happens in I'm reading a Tom Clancy novel, and I'm worried about Jack Ryan, getting killed by he's not going to get killed by the terrorists. We all know that, because there's going to be another book later. But, like,
exactly.
I was invested in that, and he's not a main character. Like, it's not going to affect the story if HODOR gets killed. He's a secondary character, but it may, because there were stakes, because this franchise is like, we'll kill people and you won't expect it, but it wasn't a cheap trick. I'm not killing people for the sake of it.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that was actually,
it never felt to me like, look what we did. Haha, we fooled you.
That's where I think
I was invested.
That's where I think the live series went astray from the written, game or Song of Ice and Fire. Is that you're right? I remember when Oberyn was fighting the Mountain, in the book. And I actually was sitting there. I wanted to flip the page to see who won, and I was like, no, because in any other story, you'd have been like, okay, Oberon's winning, but in this one, I was like, man, I don't know.
I know.
And, of course, it ends up being the bad side of that coin.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Like, this books were like that. Like, I want to just skip this other chapter and go to the part where we left off with this character.
Yeah.
To see what happened to him. It was crazy.
It was
I've never
crazy.
felt that way about a book before.
And in the TV series, up until they ran out of the written stuff, they were following that playbook, and it was cool. It was like, yeah, that's kind of what happened, I mean, they made some changes, of course, they had to, but, it was kind of like that. But thereafter, after that break, it became something different because there was too much catharsis. It was all about catharsis now. It was all about so-and-so's been wronged. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to get revenge or justice here? And that took away everything that made it special, because before then, you'd have been like, well, that ain't happening. That's not, no, wouldn't that be great if that happened? Yeah, so it's not going to happen. You know what's going to happen?
Justice does not exist in the Seven Kingdoms. You know what I mean? Like, you never got the feeling that was a world that meted out justice on the regular.
Right, and that's actually, and you would think that they would sit there and look at that as a writer's room and as a production company, and, you would think they would look at that and go, man, if we treat it kind of like The Sopranos and leave it nebulous, who knows who's going to win, instead of going the formulaic route, we can have really a good gravy train and actually have a legacy afterwards for one of the groundbreaking series ever to be made. Instead, it became, in the 8th season, remember, everybody was like, well, what was that? That's
what that was? The two showrunners wanted to go off and do something else.
I get
it. Basically phoned it in for the last season. I did watch a YouTube video last week where it was about Game of Thrones and like how it ended. And there's this, and I don't remember the person who did, but he put out this video. He was like, look, everybody likes to complain about the final season of Game of Thrones without offering an alternative. So he goes, here's how I would have written. He gave himself the same, I think it was 8 episodes in the last season. He goes, we're gonna do, the setup is the same. I'm gonna give myself the same 8 episodes that they had. Rather, like, we could have had 7 more seasons or whatever. Like, anybody can do 7 more seasons. He was like, we're gonna constrain ourselves to this. And like I said, what he was coming up with was a much better story. Like, one of the things he had was losing the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
Right. Which wrapping up that whole Night King thing just didn't make any sense. I'm like, this is the villain that we tease from episode 1, where the dude's running from the White Walkers and he abandons his post and he gets caught, and the Starks execute him because he ran away. Who's he running from? He was running from the White Walkers. So this is literally the villain from episode 1, and we come all the way up to it, and we're done with that entire thread in what, I forget which episode in season 8 it was, but it was like 1, 2, 3 episodes in. It's like, oh, Night King and all the zombies are dead. Yay. Let's go do something else for a little while. And so he switched that. He had them losing the Battle of Winterfell and having to go south to King's Landing and with this army in tow or in pursuit, etc. So he had a couple other changes that it all made sense. If I can find the video, I'll send it to you guys.
Well, that was one of the things.
Look it up. It was good.
See, that was one of the things. I remember when that happened, I told Helena, I said, I'm done with that, man. All the way up through that series, the thing I loved about it was that they had all this intrigue and all this stuff that's going on, in the kingdoms, whilst the real threat was taking place up north, and they were totally ignoring it, and I thought, man, what a metaphor for humanity and, how we are, and just that whole thing. And then, like you said, Mark, suddenly it's, okay, here's this 16-year-old girl kills this, thousands of years old, villain with a stupid, here I'm going to drop the knife.
She did something he'd never seen before. She dropped the knife and caught it with her hand.
He should have talked to Malgus. Yeah. Malgus would have told him. Malgus knew that, and don't forget, a long time ago, galaxy far, far away, he had seen it way before that.
Not going to get him.
But that was the thing that put me off. I was like, oh, come on, man. It's all about catharsis now. Stop. Where's the cost? And so it like you said, Drew, it felt phoned in.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any. Has there been a story that didn't do that? Well, yeah, Watchmen didn't do that. Watchmen was, uh,
In the comics? I
well,
don't
even in the movie. Even in the
Yeah.
movie, it didn't have catharsis. He kept that same "I got to kill Rorschach, I got to kill him,"
Yeah.
kind of thing. And even then, he took away the other catharsis, which also in the book, which was the diary that he sent, and which was going to screw it all up. And there it was sitting in the bin. So they kept all that, and I like that. That here's a movie that would make you think. I know it wasn't perfect and all, but I thought it was a good effort, but that's the only story in the book and the series I can think of that truly kept that. Can you think of another one that's done that?
Let's match the book, like a series that's
Well, no, no, no. Another one that's
not
kept,
been grim, like
but another one that didn't go, didn't
Didn't
become
necessarily
too
have a happy
infatuated with
ending
its
or
own. Yeah, yeah. It didn't change
yeah.
and become
Well, to
infatuated with its
me,
characters where you can.
that is what Reservoir Dogs made my top five because
Well,
like that
yeah,
movie. I mean, it's a heist movie, but at the end, spoiler alert, like everybody dies. That is
but
not a happy ending. You know
not
what I
the
mean?
one
Like
off. Not the one
right,
off
I
though.
get you. But I mean, that's something that set Reservoir Dogs apart from so many
Yeah.
other movies that I'd seen. Is Hollywood and movies like happy ending, right? That one was anything but. You know what I mean? It was everybody dies at the end of that, and you were kind of so it was refreshing to see them kind of go that way, or to see Quentin Tarantino go that way. And I was, so like I said, that one stood out for me as kind of one of my first movies that I ever saw that was like, wow, I did not see that coming. Because normally in a movie with an undercover cop, they make the big arrest and get the promotion and catch the bad guy and yay and every Law and Order Special Victims Unit or Law and Order series for 30 years now has been we wrap up this crime in 47 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're used to that.
Yeah, I just can't. But as a series, though, can you think of anything, that's done that?
Well, Breaking Bad I thought was an amazing ending because, presumably Walt's dead. He got
Right.
what was coming to him. He did ultimately provide for his family, but he had to
Yeah.
do it in a kind of a shady way by literally threatening two of his oldest friends to say, you're going to give this money to my family and say it's coming from you. Jesse literally watched his girlfriend get killed and was held captive,
Mhm.
and he escaped to do the movie El Camino, which was kind of good, but let's put that aside because that's not really, we didn't know that at the time. But I mean, we just knew he escaped, right? But he's on the run. So like, I think that was a really, really well done ending because none of these people deserved a happy ending because they were
Yeah.
bad people,
Yeah.
right?
So I guess that's true then. Yeah. So you got Breaking Bad.
yeah, as far as series go, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
I liked the comic better.
I mean, maybe like the first Planet of the Apes, if you think about it, it was pretty grim. I mean,
Yeah, but that was, but again, that was a one-off
oh my
though.
God.
Yeah.
But again, that was a one-off. Something
Right.
that was like a series,
But in the series, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very rare. Let's say that it's very rare to
It
have
is.
one that's willing to tackle that. And even if there was going to be a good ending, I don't mind that as long as there's cost to go along with it, because that's, to me, that just rings more true.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the new Dexter New Blood?
No.
It was awful. I mean,
Did you watch
gotta
it?
say, I did.
Okay,
And
I did too.
to me, it seems ridiculous. Why bother to go through all this trouble, and then to make matters worse, make the fans go through this insufferable dialogue and the insufferable woke town he was in, and have an insufferable son, and then go through all that, and then you bother to bring him back and do all this crap, and then you off him. Spoiler alert!
Yeah,
Oh, is
spoiler
that what
alert.
they did?
Dexter
They
gets
killed him?
killed at the end of that series by his
son.
Hmm.
Which
Did you
I
know-
think what they're trying to do is set up to have the son act the actor
Yeah,
of the son.
and guess what?
In his own, he goes to LA and becomes a serial killer, because that's, and again, like I get that you're like, we want to do a spinoff series where we can have him in a, not in Miami, but in some other place doing the thing that he learned from his dad, or, he's got his own dark past. Like
funny,
I could
so-
see that.
So he was Kylo Ren.
Yeah, basically.
It reminds me of what I said before. This is like a Hollywood type thing to do, like squeeze every dime out of this
Right,
IP.
right.
And it's just, and you know what? Then we can have Dexter come back as the voice in his head, so we could still ask the actor to
Right.
come back,
Yeah,
and he'll be
yeah.
like, "Son, do you think you should be doing this?" And he'd be the voice, and I just
Yeah.
hate it. I hate it. Actually, maybe I'm one of the probably the
I
rare
didn't
people.
mind
I'd
Deb in
rather
the
have it
series,
end the
though.
way it ended. You know, like where.
No, I've heard. This is the reason I never watched it, was because I heard a lot of people say pretty much what you guys said, which was, it's not that great.
Well, the Dexter,
It wasn't. It wasn't.
the
It was
Dexter
okay,
series,
but it wasn't.
It's good, but the last season's a bit disappointing, to say the least.
No, Dexter is one of the worst
But-
endings to a series I've ever seen.
But that being said, it was still better than the ending I just watched, that they just tacked on 8 episodes or however many episodes. It was, and Clancy Brown was in that as well.
He was, yeah.
Around again.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of good movies.
Yeah,
He's
Clancy
been in a
Brown-
lot of good. He's been in some crappy stuff,
He was
sure,
good
but
in
he's
that.
been in
He
a
was
lot of good stuff.
Great.
Hey, let me ask you something, because I know we're getting towards the end of
We
the
are.
shindig. Let me ask you something. I mentioned Watchmen, and I was thinking about this earlier. For me, I was thinking about this. My favorite character, comic book character of all of them that has ever been written, may just well be Dr. Manhattan. Second to that might be Rorschach. And I was wondering, for you guys, what would yours be? If you had to pick one, what would yours be?
That's easy. Well, when I was a younger man, I used to feel more. This is just like, this says dark things about me. When I was a younger man, I used to be more aligned with Rorschach. That there's good and bad, and anything in between is just sort of a waste of time. And and I used to have that sort of thinking, like someday, people are going to be like, save us, and I'm just saying no.
Yeah,
Like,
nah.
I agree with that theory, but now that I'm an older guy and the way the world is now, the character I relate to the most, after seeing what I've seen in this world, is the comedian, where everything is a joke. Like we struggle and go through all this stuff, and it's like super difficult, and we fight one another, and we go through, and the end result is we're all gonna die, and the world's gonna end. It's entropy wins again, and that's how I think the comedian is the one I relate to the most, because
Not just relate though. Do you think would you say he's probably the best written character?
I think he's an amazingly written character. If you think
I think he
about
is
what
too.
you're saying.
Despicable.
He is terrible.
Yeah,
He's the
despicable.
worst.
But
It's
we're not
because
talking
of
about
his
that.
belief of the fact that none of this matters.
Yeah.
Like you can, which is the polar opposite of Rorschach, in a strange way. He's saying none of this matters. Do what you want, because in the end, we're all going to die the same way, or we're all going to die, different ways, of course, but we're all going to die. And the world itself, no matter how much you try, entropy will win, and the universe will swallow the earth, and that'll be it.
See, I thought that was a comedian was going to be my third after Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan. I love Dr. Manhattan because out of the only 2 people I've seen that I've read who have written God really, really well was Tolkien out of the Silmarillion. I thought it was wonderfully written that way, both God and Morgoth the Devil. I thought that was the only author I've ever read who has written them beautifully. I mean, just like you would expect. Children of Hurin, great. Beautifully written that way. Morgoth, he is the devil, and how he's written is wonderful. The other one was the freakazoid Alan Moore, because as freaky and weird as he is, the insight he gives to, you could see him sitting there thinking, not with his own biases, by the way, but he was sitting there thinking, what would it be like to suddenly have that power, to suddenly become God, where you see everything all at the same time, and you can't do anything about it. You're stuck. Like he says, I'm just a puppet. You can see the strings. What would that be like?
It'd be
And
horrible. And I like
it would
when
be
the comedian,
horrible.
when the comedian says to him, when the Vietnamese girl that he impregnated wants him to stay and wants
Yeah,
him to give him money, and she breaks the bottle
right.
and flashes the comedian's face, and then he kills her. And then, Dr. Manhattan's standing there the whole entire time. He knows what's going to happen. And the comedian just points it out. He's like, look at you. You know, you're saying I'm the one that's bad, but you knew this was going to happen. You knew she was going to do what she did. And you knew the end result was me going to be killing her. Who is the monster here? You
Yeah.
know? And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like it.
And how that was written, yeah, and that's what I mean. That how that was written was that's why comedian was third on my list, is because how that whole thing is written, and it's horrible. But having that whole thing there, and then you're looking at it in that way, is so great. And I love seeing people trying to understand Dr. Manhattan. And I love seeing them saying, oh my God, a conversation with him I would hate that, you know?
Yeah, it would be
And
awful.
I'm sitting there thinking, why don't you understand what he is? And then ask yourself, why would you have the conversation in the first place? You know, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just ask and whatever it is, boom, that's it, and you move on because you know how it's going to end up, you know? I love how he wrote for him. I love how he wrote for that character. And the reason he's number one for me is because I really think he put effort into what would it be like to be God and how torturous would that be. And that I thought it was just beautifully done.
Well, let's put it this way,
Rorschach,
God-like, because I mean, we all like to think that God would intervene and that God
well,
would
yes,
different
yes,
circumstances. But this guy is just
understood.
watching a movie because
Yeah,
it's all happening at once.
Mm.
He's seeing an entire movie run its length at the same time. So every
yeah,
film reel, I mean, every frame is all together, and
yeah.
he's seeing this whole
24/7.
yeah, just horrible. I
Yeah,
mean, what a horrible
24/7
existence.
he sees everything.
He
And
can't
so
do anything.
his
Doesn't
lack of
matter.
emotion, or what people would take as lack of emotion, is really because he's already seen it an infinite number of times, and all he has to do is say his part, and that's
See, we
it.
should have done a video just on the Watchmen.
Well, maybe we could do that.
All right, tune in next week.
Maybe we could do that. Rorschach, I love his character because that for me was like, the other one was what if you were godlike, right? With Rorschach, it was like, okay, well, what would Batman actually be like? You know? And you know, at some point, Batman's villains have been ridiculously comic, right? Even in The Dark Knight, still comic, still comic. Yes, there were murders and all that stuff, but nothing really super brutal. What about the time he runs into the dude who has done the horrible things that he ran
Right.
into that night, and how would that shatter you, right? And
Yeah.
here's this guy who has this horrible background already, and I thought that was a really, really interesting dive into what would a character like that be, and where would they end up? Where did they
And there's
start?
no
Where did they
way
end up?
on God's green earth that Batman could be the way he is.
No, not at all.
Kill these guys. There is
Yeah,
no way. I'm
no
calling
way.
bullshit.
And
Because
so,
the moment you saw all those, all those bodies and the things that they've done to children, and there's no way the Joker would be living. I
no,
mean, I can guarantee
yeah,
Yeah.
they just had a question like, do you think Batman should kill the Joker? It was like, yes, 100%, yes.
In fact,
You know,
from the first time he had the opportunity to kill the Joker and didn't,
yeah,
pretty much everyone the Joker's ever harmed or
Exactly
killed
right.
since then,
yeah.
it's kind of his fault, right?
And see,
and
Mark, you make a great point, and that's part of what I think drives a character like Rorschach, is that he knows if he doesn't act here, this is going to be the knock-on effect for all those that character runs into
right.
after.
And I love his attitude when he gets arrested and thrown in prison, and he's like, you guys are trapped in here with
Yeah.
me. I'm not
Yeah.
trapped in here with
Right.
you. Like
Yeah.
that attitude. Like that's one of the things I love about how that character's written is
Yeah.
is
Oh,
he
I
is
love
so
that.
single-minded of determination that is like perfect. I have a target-rich environment, whereas other people are like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in prison. And he's like, cool.
You know,
I don't have to go look for him.
When I would teach the classes I was talking about earlier with you guys before we started recording, one of the things I would tell the people I was training, one of the people I would tell them about, fights and being in fights and that sort of thing, and the reality of it, which is there are times you're not going to win. There are plenty of times you're not going to win. Whoever you're fighting is bigger, better, better trained, and more often than not, it's going to be just chance, things that are totally out of your control anyway. So realistically, big wheel of chance. I said, imagine a big wheel of chance. That's survival or death. Your skill and ability is like maybe a slice like that. Now it's an important slice, and I practice that stuff all the time so that slice, hopefully, it is the deciding factor. But most of it is not in your control. And so you may ask yourself, well, if all that other stuff doesn't matter, and I would tell them self-confidence is nonsense and all that because it doesn't change anything. You have to let go of that and allow yourself just to do the best you can do. And ego and expectation is going to ruin that. It's a whole thing. So they would say, well, what am I supposed to do then? And I say, you model yourself after the honey badger. You model yourself after the honey badger because the honey badger just doesn't care. It's going to throw everything it's got at it, and that's it. That is what I picture Rorschach to be, is you put him in prison there. It doesn't matter that he's going to die. He would. Eventually they'd get him, there's just too many.
Yep.
But he doesn't care. And that's what makes him so terrifying to everybody else, is that he will give everything that he has because that's how much he believes in what he's doing. And Dr. Manhattan was the exact same thing, a different level of power, of course, different perspective and all that, but same thing. He was going to give everything he had because he had to. It was already determined. It's what needed to happen for this whole thing to play out, and he knew his part. So that's why I love those two.
I love Rorschach too. When Mark was talking about like when he is locked in prison, I mean, it's not even like he's just quietly threatening or. I mean, he is verbally assaulting guys with the little dude, the little person that's in there, that's the boss, and he's like pretty short order, and making all these little jokes. Like he's trying to infuriate them. Which is just like, oh my gosh. And he's not, you can see he's not even trying to do it in a fun, like it's funny, but he's trying to be as offensive as he can to this guy.
He's not tempering, he's not trying to hold back or,
He's trying, he's attempting to infuriate them.
Right.
For his own advantage.
Right, because that's a tactic. If you're angry and attacking, and you're going to make more mistakes than if you're like trying to figure out the most efficient and efficient way to end the fight.
He comes across, and I've heard people describe him as psychopathic or sociopathic, and mostly people have no idea what those terms mean. And oddly enough, he's one of the most empathetic people in the entire story.
I think
he's super empathetic. What's that?
I think he's antisocial.
He's antisocial, absolutely.
I think a lot of people mix that up. I think he's more antisocial than anything else. Because his only real relationship is with the owl. And because he always treated him with respect and not as a crazy person.
Well, that's because the antisocial part is that he doesn't, and you were right about that. The antisocial means you don't see a point in society's rules, in their laws. You don't see them applying to you, making any sense, so I'm not going to follow. That's, mobsters and, that sort of thing as well. Well, it applies to him. He doesn't see the point in that stuff because it doesn't do anything. That's why he's out there doing his vigilante thing, So the way he wrote him, for me, was like, that's spot on. That's what would happen if you had a Batman-esque character. Now, the Night Owl, not my favorite character because, he's...
but he's necessary.
But he is, and this is the thing. He's the other half of Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. So he's the if Bruce Wayne didn't go bad, what would he be? He would be this guy.
The owl is us.
Yeah.
I mean, he is as close out of all the characters. Hilarious. The owl is the normal man in the lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have superpowers. He's got physical problems. He's got relationship problems. You know, what does he do with his money? Does he like invest it? And he builds a giant spaceship in his basement. I mean, it's like, oh my god. You know, he's the average Joe, and he's walking among gods. And I mean, I love, you know, the exceptional way, you know, that Rorschach respects him, because, you know, he always treated him with respect and not as a crazy person. You know, it's not, oh, that's just Rorschach. He is the way, he's a jerk off.
Yeah.
You know, he never disrespected him. Always, you know, and I think that, like, he's like the best as you could be as a regular human among these people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what his character is definitely necessary, because you need that relatable character on a subconscious level to see where all these other guys fall, because there's so many levels of kookiness going on there between the Comedian and Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan. It's like, oh my lord, to try to be among those guys as a regular guy is, God,
I know, it's got to be amazing and daunting at the same time. Mark, now Drew and I, apparently ours is from Watchmen, our characters. For you, if you had to pick, what would yours be? Not just from Watchmen. I'm saying
from everything. I thought
from everything.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. You're talking about like the best written comic book characters and arcs or whatever. See, I don't know the answer. I because there's so many things that I like out there. Now, I will say, like, I'm a huge fan of Brian Bendis. Like, I love Powers and I love a lot of things he's written. But I don't know that I like his stories and the stories that he tells. I don't know if that translates into I really like the way he wrote this one character. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I said, Alan Moore, you're absolutely right. He wrote those characters in different tones, different voices, whatever you want to call it. Like, he did a great job on those. So I agree with what you guys are saying there, but I haven't had enough time to think of all the different comics and stories that I've read.
About that. If you
and
can
think, who's the best? I think Snake Eyes would be the one.
I'll give you this: that one issue with no dialogue.
Oh, I love that one. That was my favorite issue.
I have that.
That was awesome. Yeah, that one issue was awesome.
Yeah, they made another one, right? They made an annual with.
I'm not into Snake Eyes anymore because now he shows his face all the time. And
this was in the old school. This was like shortly after that. They made another one that was.
No, I mean, they ruined his character for me by showing his face now and all. So it's all tainted. It's like the term. It's like when you said Sorcerer Supreme. That has been ruined for me by Taco Bell. So I can't hear Sorcerer
anything
Supreme anymore.
It's just right out.
Yeah. It is. It's ruined. Yeah. So every time I hear that, it diminishes the title. It is. So anyway, my favorite character for writing, for all of that, how they're written, how the character is explored, would be Dr. Manhattan and then Rorschach second. If you guys can think of that, I think we should talk about that next week. Or open up with that. And by the way, I also thought of another lightning in a bottle movie, which was Boondock Saints.
Agreed. Yep.
I mean, it's kind of goofy, but it is a good movie.
It is a lightning in a bottle.
All the characters. It's definitely one of those things that shouldn't work, but it
does.
I mean,
you made me think of that when you were talking about Willem Dafoe and Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And the fact that for some reason that works. And I was thinking, and he was amazing in Boondock Saints.
He was really amazing in Boondock Saints, wasn't he? Yeah, and like everybody in that movie was.
They were
like everyone worked.
I wish that dude, their buddy, had gotten more acting jobs after that movie.
Right. Yeah.
I can't remember his name. Funny.
Oh, that was a good one. So, but I think we're up against it. So we will pick it up again next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. This concludes our Speak Nerd and Enter broadcast.